So welcome to today's live training on self-love and creating 3 self-loving habits that, to me, will help you create more happiness, joy, connection, success, and loving relationships in your life. Self-love is at the core of happiness, and it's at the core of success and fulfillment, and it's the core of our relationship with others. I'm talking to you today about creating 3 self-loving habits. And of course, there are many habits that you can create to invite in more self-love into your life so that you can get to connect with that happiness, that fulfillment, success, everything you desire in life. So first of all, we're going to look at how to create a loving vision for your life. Then we're going to have a look at how to make self-loving choices and how you can start receiving more into your life. So it's about not going out there striving and struggling, but opening up to receiving more of this into your life. So let's dive into this. There are 3, or let's say 2 ways of doing your duty. And if you are a self-lover, then it's important for you to do your duty, because we can't pretend that we are just here and that we are totally free of obligations, that we are totally free to do exactly what we want in life. I mean, maybe that would not even be desirable. So people are expecting something of us, and we are expecting something of ourselves. But you can either oblige yourself to do something which is coming from that duty energy, or you can choose to do it or not. If you oblige yourself to do something, then it could create a lot of resentment, because you're not coming to your duty or to your obligation with love. You're coming to that obligation with duty energy, if I can call it like that. So my idea is to make you see how you can do the same thing, perhaps, but coming to it with a different energy. Also, I would like for us to have a look at the excuses we make for ourselves. We say, I have to, when we should really be saying, I choose to. So it's again this duty versus choice. So I could say, it's so easy for her because her husband has got his own company, or it's so easy for her to have a brilliant career because she doesn't have children, or it's so easy for them to have their dream house because they've both got fabulous jobs, or they just inherited a lot of money. It's so easy for her to do this because her dad is influential. We come up with a lot of excuses, and they are really excuses. So what is it that we really want? I would like for you to start off with creating a loving vision for your life. A loving vision is not something that you can have straight away. A vision is something that unfolds over time. It could be 2 months, it could be 2 years, it could be 20 years, right? I'm in the very fortunate position now of living a very beautiful life. I mean, a life that I designed. I've got my mansion in the south of France. I've designed everything around me to suit me. And I'm really very, very happy about that. But had you told me like 20 years ago that I would be living this life, I would have said, well, you're crazy. I mean, how can that happen? So what sometimes happens is that we confuse the how with the what. So we deprive ourselves of the what because we don't know how we're going to create it. So what I'm inviting you to do here is really to feel into what it is that you really want. And please don't go into overwhelm over this. Let me give you an example. If you want to create a vision without going into overwhelm, making sure to dial in to what is really your vision, not somebody else's. So you might not be a career person. You might not be wanting to have a fabulous career, right? You might want to something entirely different. You might want to be traveling around the globe or something. So just make sure that what you're thinking of now is not somebody else's ideas for you. And it would be really useful to have a pen and paper ready here. And if you're watching this on the replay, you could just pause me in a little while and then do a little bit of dream visioning. What I'd like for you to ask yourself, to start off very simply and ask yourself, where would I like to wake up? Who would I like to be there? What would I like my bedroom to look like? What would I like to have for breakfast? Where would I be having breakfast? Who would I be with? What would I be preparing to do in the day? So you ask yourself a few questions about that, feeling into it. And let me give you an example. You might be thinking, I'd like to wake up in a gorgeous, huge master bedroom with heavy silk curtains and lovely flowers at the bedside table. Then I want to get up and put on my silk dressing gown, going down for breakfast with my family. You see how you can sort of feel into it, and there's nothing permanent about this. Feel free to change it like 100 times. Just put something down today, and if you're blocking yourself on the how of it, if you could just think, oh, if I put this into the future, it might feel a little bit easier because you're no longer worrying about how you're going to achieve it. So it might help you to say, where would I like to wake up in 5 years or in 10 years, whatever feels comfortable for you, right? I really want you to connect with your feelings and not with a lot of struggle and strife in terms of how am I going to do this? So really try and feel in, and put me on pause now if you're doing this on the replay. Feel into what it is you would really like. Then, once you've got your vision sort of around it, you've got a lot of elements, or a few elements at least, ask yourself, well, what can I do today that will bring me closer to my best life, to this vision you just created? I mean, I love this exercise. I feel it to be so delicious because there's no stress, there's no problems about how can I achieve that. You're just letting yourself feel it and envision it. And then you ask yourself, what is the one thing I can do? What is one thing? And if you go along with my example of a master bedroom, heavy silk curtains, beautiful flowers, what could you do today? I mean, you might not be able to have a huge master bedroom if your bedroom now is tiny. You might not be able to go out and buy a mansion with a huge bedroom. But what you could do is perhaps think about getting some new curtains, or getting curtains. Or maybe if you enjoy waking up with flowers at your bedside, maybe you want to go out and get yourself some flowers. Why not? Think about, is there one thing you could do today that would bring you closer to that vision? And whatever you can think of that would be an element of this vision, that is really a very self-loving gift to give yourself. What could be more self-loving than bringing yourself closer to your vision? So if you make it a habit of including in your everyday life little elements of how you could feel closer to that vision, now that would really make you wake up one day in your vision, right? I just said I live in a mansion and I find it's beautiful. It didn't happen overnight. In fact, when I bought my mansion, it was a ruin and I had to have a lot of work done to it. I myself did a lot of work, but mostly in the way of decorating. But it really took me a long time to achieve it, right? But I enjoyed it because I brought in little elements, one after another. So all this accumulated, made for one day waking up in that beautiful bedroom that I had designed. So please think of it. What is the one thing you can do today? The first self-love habit that I'm inviting you to adopt right now is to bring in this element. Ask yourself, where can I up-level? And it's about gifting yourself that extra thing that will make your dream more palpable, seem more doable, more realistic, because you're already taking action steps toward it. Do you see what I mean? So moving on, I'm inviting you to make some self-loving choices. And maybe you've heard me tell the story of Anna. If not, I'll just briefly recap it here. Anna came to me because she had a daughter, and she found herself at her daughter's end of term concert, feeling frustrated at the end of her tether, stressed out and unable to enjoy her daughter's performance and even to participate in her daughter's pride and joy. So she felt there was a total disconnect between her and her vision, her and her dreams, and her everyday actions. So imagine Anna sitting in a concert with children. I think Anna's daughter was about 10, and her daughter had been playing the cello for 3 years, and Anna had invested time and effort in taking her daughter to cello lessons, in paying for cello lessons, and even buying a cello for her daughter. And yet, all those efforts came to frustration instead of reward. Instead of sitting there, taking it all in, enjoying her daughter's enjoyment, she just felt frustrated. And it sort of got to a point where it was unbearable for Anna, because at the end of the concert, there was an encore. And Anna just felt, how can I stand another 5 minutes of this? I've got so much to do. So Anna was overcommitted because she had not been making those self-loving choices. She had been prioritizing other people's needs over her own. And even going beyond that, she had been expecting too much of herself. In fact, she had been unable to prioritize in her life, and that is why she found herself in this predicament. And this is what I want to avoid. So I'm just saying, give yourself permission. So give yourself permission to say no. Yes, certainly. Say no to others, but also give yourself permission not to use time as an excuse. I just talked about excuses, and we've got into this habit of saying, sorry, I can't do this, I haven't got the time. Or we tell ourselves, oh, I can't do this, I haven't got the time. And that is really making time your master. Whereas the self-loving thing is to you yourself be your master and make your own choices. So if you are somebody who says, I won't go to dance classes because I haven't got the time, or I won't invest in self-care, like having a massage, because I haven't got the time, or you could even say money, or whatever it is you're depriving yourself of through an excuse like time. I'm inviting you to really turn that around and say, instead of saying, I haven't got the time, you say, I don't intend to, because that is really much closer to the truth. So my second self-loving habit that I'm inviting you to adopt today is to say, I don't intend to, instead of I don't have the time to. And this can sound really, really harsh. But if we're being honest, isn't that really what we mean? When we say, I haven't got the time to take Italian classes, what we're really saying is, I don't intend to. Right? So if you're being just a little bit honest with yourself, what is it that you're depriving yourself of, not allowing into your life? I mean, Italian lessons is one thing, but there's really so much more, isn't there? Maybe you're not allowing yourself the time to play with your family. You're going out to do sports with your children, your husband, going for walks. So just if you've got toddlers, playing with them without doing anything else, because we are sometimes on this guilt trip, aren't we? Where we think, oh, I can't just do that. Let me do something else at the same time. Let me prepare a meal while I'm sort of watching my toddler, sort of distracting him or her, right? Instead of being there like 100%. Like in the story of Anna that I just mentioned, she was not able to enjoy the concert, her daughter's progress or her daughter's enjoyment, because she was mentally elsewhere, wasn't she? She was thinking about 5 minutes late. Okay, so I won't have the time to go to the baker's and pick up that cake for Mum's birthday tonight, or whatever. She was somewhere else, really. She was not able to fully connect. And when we're not fully connected to what we're doing, to the people we're with, well, we're really depriving us of all the joy of the activity or of the people. We're really telling ourselves, you don't deserve this because your duty lies elsewhere, right? So I find this really, really sad that we've gotten to that state. But there are so many reasons why we are in that place, many of us, a lot of the time. It's because we've overcommitted. We've said yes, yes, yes to a lot of things. So I'm inviting you today to think about, what is it you say no to when you say yes to something? And that sounds a bit paradoxical. So let me take it apart. If you say yes to your boss to take work home during the weekend, well, that could be really very good for your career. Maybe your boss will think of promoting you. Maybe you will get a chance to use all your talents in your job, which is all very good. And it's all very useful potentially. But if that is not where you want to focus, if your career is not your focus, and if your children are your focus, now taking home work for the weekend is saying yes to your boss, but it's saying no to your family, isn't it? It's saying no to playing with your children over the weekend, to connecting with them, even watching a film together, playing a game, or going for a walk. Do you see what I mean? So you're always, when you say yes to something, you say no to something else. So that was an example of how you can prioritize saying yes to your values, to your priorities, but also think about yourself. It's often more self-loving to say no to yourself and saying yes. And let me give you an example to try and persuade you that that is actually the case. Imagine you were committed to being healthy, to being slim, and really enjoying your body because it was fit, so you would feel able to do a lot of things. I do that. I'm not really into fitness, but I want to be able to just go out and enjoy nature. I want to be able to climb a mountain or go on a hike, to go bike riding when I want to. So I want to be fit. Because that is just how I enjoy my life better. So if I'm committed to that, if somebody offers me a second or third piece of cake, well, if I'm in a self-loving mood, I might really want that piece of cake, right? But the self-loving thing would be to say no. So in the short term, it might seem like a good idea to have that piece of cake, but in the long term, well, that would really take me away from this desire I have of being fit, healthy, and slim. So saying no to something in the moment is actually much more self-loving to your long-term priorities. So it is distinguishing between the long-term and the short-term. And once you've created your vision, you will find that these choices become so much easier, because in my example of the cake, all I really have to ask myself, is this piece of cake going to take me closer to my vision or further away from my vision? And when I put it like that, my choice gets to be really, really easy, if you see what I mean. I don't have to be doing a lot of overthinking around that, closer or further, really, to my vision, right? So think about that. Think about saying no in the short term, which will allow a yes in the future. It's about how your short-term choices really determine your long-term possibilities, what will be available to you long-term. Another example of this would be wanting to go on a vacation to Hawaii, right? I imagine that would be quite expensive. Sorry. It would be quite expensive. I mean, seen from where I am in the south of France, that would, I mean, it's not on my wish list, so I haven't looked into how much it is. It just strikes me as being something quite expensive. So if you're committed to that, if that is something you want to experience, more power to you. But if you then choose to go on a shopping spree and spend a lot of money on clothes and shoes and things you don't really need, well, then you're really saying no to yourself, aren't you? You're saying no to your dream, because instead of saving for your holidays, you're spending that money on something very unself-loving. So think about those choices. Are they bringing you closer to your vision? Are they bringing you further away? As far as time or money, think about, I don't intend to, instead of, I don't have the time, the money to. Right. Moving on. We're coming to expecting the best. And that is really about receiving. Self-love is, to me, opening up to receiving everything that is best for you. We're sometimes our own worst enemies, aren't we? I'm sure you can recognize from your own life that sometimes we self-sabotage, right? We're not really allowing stuff in. I, for one, I was terrible at allowing things into my life. I was into the strife and struggle mode. So I made everything super difficult for myself. So this is what I want to avoid for you. And if you're already doing it, I would really appreciate if we could shift you out of that and open you up to allowing in more of what it is you want. So I want to impress on your mind that there is no limit to how much you deserve. And I know that that can be a little bit difficult for some of us to imagine, but when you think of the value of a human life, we can't put a price tag on it, can we? It is so invaluable. Think of it. Think of the people you love. There's nothing you wouldn't give to them. I mean, within your possibilities, there's nothing you wouldn't do for them. Think of it. We are priceless. So you deserve everything that is available to you. So this is about making it available. I already talked a little bit about it at the beginning when we were talking about the master bedroom, and my first self-love habit for you to start cultivating, bringing in elements of of that into your life, right? Now I'm inviting you to up level. I'm inviting you to think about what is the best and then expect it. So let me give you an example of that. Let's say you go to a restaurant and you're offered a table next to the toilet. Now, some people would accept that, but if it's not the best for you, why would you? So just for a moment, imagine that best doesn't equal most expensive, right? And I'm coming back to that. So best, I mean, the price of the food is the same in a restaurant, whether you're placed next to the toilets or at the window. So you might say, well, there was only one table available in this restaurant. It was next to the toilets, Katrina. What are you expecting me to do? Well, I'm expecting you to refuse it. I'm expecting you to expect the best. A table next to the doors into the toilet is not acceptable to me. I want to be next to the window. So if I can't be that, I'll just have to say, I'm sorry, I'm leaving, which is perfectly within your right. So expect the best of others. If people don't treat you very politely, kindly, well, then that's not on, right? It doesn't mean you have to start being aggressive with people. It just means that you don't have to accept it. So you can walk away from those people. You can politely tell them what you think if you want to, but you don't have to. You can just walk away. Expecting the best from your family, from your friends is really key here. So what I always say is that we teach others how we want to be treated. And unfortunately, we don't teach other people that through what we say. We don't teach people that we love receiving flowers by telling them, I love when people give me flowers. That is not how it works, right? Maybe you can think of children, of yourself. They don't learn so much through what we tell them or through what you were told. It's what people model to you. So we model how we want other people to treat us. We model, when we model, it's much stronger than what we can say. Right? We are observing all the time. So if I give myself flowers, well, then I'm modeling to the world that I enjoy receiving flowers. So if you model to the world that you're perfectly willing to accept a table in a restaurant next to the toilets, well, then that's what you're going to get. If you model to people that you accept when they're being rude to you, well, then that's what you're going to get. If you feel that your family is taking advantage of you and asking you to do a million things that you don't want to do, well, if you do them, then you're telling them, okay, walk all over me. I'm fine with that. Think about it. Your behavior really conditions how people treat you. So you have actually got permission to say that this is unacceptable and walk away. You don't have to grin and bear it, right? You can actually choose to walk away. Taking this a step further, I know that to some of you this is already huge. Like some would even argue with me and tell me that, well, I'm not really expecting other people to treat me like a queen, but and that would not be reasonable. But when you think of it, well, why not? I mean, why not? Why shouldn't we? I mean, I for one, I always try to do my best to treat other people with the most kindness possible. I would even say love, respect, and kindness, right? So why shouldn't you expect it back to yourself? Now, I don't get upset about it if people are rude to me, which rarely happens. I don't get upset about it because I know it's just a lot of their own stuff going on. It really says more about them than it says about me, but I'm not accepting it, right? So if somebody's rude to me in a shop, I just say, thank you, goodbye, and walk out. Or if I think that the person, perhaps I could help that person become a little bit more aware of their way of treating customers, I would tell them, but often I would just walk away. That is a possibility. Think about it. I would also love for you to consider gifting you something of the best. So it's again about receiving. How can you receive the best? Well, why don't you decide that you are going to gift yourself the best of something? And again, best is not necessarily a huge amount of money. I want to tell you another little story about my life. When I was a student, I didn't have a lot of money. As many students, I had enough money. I had no needs that went unmet. I had everything I needed. Only there was lots of things that I wanted. And I went home, I think, for Christmas, and my suitcase was really in a bad state. So my mum and dad said, oh, we will buy you a new suitcase for Christmas, which we couldn't do because the shops were closed. So they gave me the money to buy one when I got home. So I went back home, and I think I lived in Paris at the time. And I could go out and buy a new suitcase with that money. They had given me 500 crowns. This was Danish money, right? So back in the day, this was quite a good amount of money. It wasn't hugely, wildly, exorbitantly a lot of money. It wasn't not any money. It was substantial. And I thought, wow, I can just go into a shop and get what I want. I was not looking for the budget. I was not looking for the deal, for the cheapest, for the best value. I allow myself to choose a suitcase that I really wanted. So I went into a shop, looked at all the suitcases, and found one that I really liked. And it turned out to be just the price of the money I had, right? So I allowed myself to choose exactly that suitcase because that was the one that I really wanted. So this is what I'm inviting you to do. I'm not inviting you to go out and spend a lot of money. That is not the point of my story. My point is, if you haven't got a lot of money, maybe you can save up for a coffee in a fancy cafe, and then go into that cafe and buy yourself not the cheapest coffee or not the cheapest drink, but buy yourself the best, the one you really want. Or you can practice this in a restaurant. Go into a restaurant, don't look at the prices on the menu, just choose what you really want, right? But obviously you have to set a little budget. If you're short of money, then you have to budget it out first and then get the sum of money that you're allowing yourself to spend. So it's about gifting you the best of something small like the best coffee, something bigger like the best meal. And by best, I mean the one that suits you the most, not the most expensive. I mean, you don't have to order champagne and lobster. It could be something totally different. Choose your restaurant in your price range and just go for it and see how you feel. How do you feel when you gift yourself the best? This is how you can really up-level your mindset to access this place where you feel you deserve the best. When you deserve the best and you feel it, when you feel totally worthy of it, well, that is what is going to happen increasingly in your life. So also, I'm advising you to either do your best or not do it at all, because it's all very well expecting the best of others, expecting politeness, kindness, whatever, of others, expecting the best seat in a restaurant, the best seat anywhere, really. But what about yourself? And I think if you're all being really honest, sometimes we allow ourselves not to do our best. We allow ourselves to do something Well, to get by, right? And self-love is about being your best, allowing yourself to be your best. So it's really doing away with this self-sabotage concept where for an important meeting we show up late, sabotaging our chances of success, not preparing for a presentation, right? Those kinds of things that we do really because we've perhaps hit an upper limit, which means that we don't really believe that we deserve what is on the other side of that limit. So we make sure to sabotage ourselves so we won't be in that position of being on the other side where things become possible. So please always ask of yourself to do your best and allow yourself to say, no. I do that a lot. I get off at work, for instance, and I think, I can't fit this in. I won't be able to do my best. So I just say, no, thank you. If the conditions don't allow for me to do my best, I would just say, no, thank you. And by this, I don't mean that you have to become a perfectionist. If you're already one, far from me to tell you to keep on doing that. Being a perfectionist is not about doing your best. It's about being afraid of your best not being enough, right? If you have got perfectionistic tendencies, you push yourself to do something which is impossible because perfection is not of this world. So to me, perfectionism is about not allowing yourself to do the best because you fear your best is not good enough. What I am talking about is doing your best, doing it joyfully because you are aware that you might fail. And failing is not really unself-loving, is it? I mean, we all fail. Lots of us fail. At the beginning of this presentation, I failed to share my screen. I don't know what went on, right? So failures happen, mistakes happen. Just allow them to be, no big deal. Allow yourself to fail, but always strive to do your best. And there are tons of examples from the sports world. I mean, some people won't allow themselves to go for a competition because they might not be the best. Some people won't allow themselves to go for a job interview because they might not get the job. So if you can find joy in doing your best, knowing that you might fail, well, that I think is a major key to happiness and even to success. So I've been talking about a lot of self-love habits, and I know that some of you have already done my tips and tools for greater self-love. I'm inviting you now to go further on this, and that will be how to have more happiness, fulfillment, and success with less stress. And I've done an online video course, which is called the Self-Love Activation course. And this is really my best offer to you, aside from one-on-one coaching. It's only at $47. And I really think that this is a value-packed offer that you won't be able to refuse because there is so much of what I've just been talking about here. It's a 12-module course, so obviously we'll be going into greater detail with all that. For instance, in order for you to get out of overwhelm, we have a look at your schedule, how to prioritize and how to connect everything you do to your values. It's important to be aware of our values in life because once we are aware of them, we can connect what we do to those values, and particularly we can stop doing the things that don't connect to our values. So in this course, I'll be walking you through how you can connect and choose what to do to your values. Once you know why you're doing something, well, then you have joy doing it. Imagine Anna, I talked about her taking her daughter to her cello lessons. Now, if she had a value, say, of bringing up her children to open them up to a lot of things in life, so her value could be excellence, it could be family, obviously. So taking her daughter to her cello lessons, which could be a little bit of a struggle in a busy life, she would be able to immediately connect that to her value of family, to her value of offering excellence, so that she could actually feel good taking her daughter to cello lessons, knowing that she was right on purpose there. She was living out her values, offering that to her daughter. So she would be getting out of that strife and struggle into that overwhelmed feeling of thinking, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. She would be doing only what was important and loving it. Do you see what I mean? So she wouldn't be accumulating a lot of useless things. She would be concentrating all her energy on just doing those things that gave meaning to those actions. Do you see what I mean? So we go through that in the self-love activation course, and we go so much further. We go deeply into how you can train yourself to say no kindly, lovingly, gently, and gracefully to other people. How can you let people down without the guilt? How can you learn to detect what you're saying no to when you say yes to something else? That was my example with the boss and the work over the weekend. How can you really train yourself, cultivate those habits that will make you capable of saying no without the guilt? This is where you go to katrinaporn.com/self-love to find out more about this self-love activation course. So let's just see what's in it. You get rid of the busyness and define your values in the first few modules, and that is really so that you can craft your vision statement. A vision statement is a short statement that sums up who you are, tied into your values, and where it is you want to go. So it is super important, and that is really your tool for being able to make those self-loving choices that are not just short-term, but take you in to your future. And remember, when you make the choices in the short term that allow possibilities in the long term, that is really when you are honing in on your self-love. We also commit to self-care, because when we squeeze out self-care, when we just go on and on and on, like my example of Anna, we get into a lot of strife and struggle, and we forget how valuable we are. We forget that we deserve the best, and we forget that we deserve everything we can get, right? So it's really about having very self-caring habits in place and making sure that we actually honor them, right? So it's really to keep you on track so that you've got zero excuses for not implementing what you decide on. Then we've got a module on your boundaries, and it's really to dive in to feeling where it is that you think that people are getting a bit too close to you, where you think that people are not respecting you, or when you're not respecting yourself. We've all got boundaries, and a happy life is really one where you've got very clear boundaries, and again, without being aggressive about it, but where you are sort of protected. You have put up this protection around you, your boundaries, and you are able to signal to people kindly and lovingly and gracefully where those boundaries are. Right? You teach other people how it is you want to be treated. You practice saying no. Again, how do you say no? In lots of different situations, it's so important to be able to feel good about saying no, so that you don't go into that guilt trip thinking, oh, she asked me to pick up her children from school, I must do it. If I say no, it's because I'm not being helpful. So we get rid of all that and just hone in on the essential part, right? And I think that this is really something that can open you up to feeling much more love of other people, because they won't be taking advantage of you anymore. Feeling more self-love too, because you won't be wasting your time, effort, and energy on a lot of things that don't really tie into your values again. Do you see what I mean? We talk back to your inner critic. We haven't touched on this in this training because this is really huge. But it's another very important part of loving yourself. We have a close look of how you can step into your power, which is a whole different subject. It's again about expecting the best. It's again about receiving. And then we go deep into your needs and desires, because to me, desires are just ways of having your needs met. So once you get clear on what your real needs are, not what you think they are, but your real needs, then you can build your desires and tie them into your needs. And when that happens, when you become aware of the whole process here, well, then you can actually make it happen. So imagine you will have your desires met. I mean, you would just be free to have a lot more desires, right? This is my hope for you, that you become ultra aware of where it is that your needs are not being met and how you can create those desires that will have them met. I think that is huge in life. Once you've got all that in place, you're now ready to enter your zone of excellence, because you're now free to be fully everything you can be, right? You've got rid of all that time pressure. You're no longer in the overwhelmed stress mode. You know what you want. You're living your desires. So what happens there? Well, you're in your zone of excellence. When you're in your zone of excellence, well, everything becomes fun, right? Life is good because you're no longer in that strife and struggle mode that I used to spend a lot of time in. You are allowing all your gifts, your talents to play out to the full in your life. And what happens? Well, it just, your life becomes an expression of your excellence. And this is nothing to be afraid of. I mean, I will be walking you through that. So if that is sort of threatening to you right now, if you think, wow, I'm not really excellent, don't fret, don't worry. Yes, you are. You just need to discover how you can allow yourself to be that. And then the last module is about accepting that you are worthy, how you can get all this into your life. And then obviously there is a tracker to make you build your everyday life around what you've learned, sort of fit them into your schedule, build your habits in a really constructive way so that you are opening up to all this self-love, which, if you can remember, I said at the beginning, is really at the core of your happiness, of your success, of your connection to others. And I'm not even mentioning your abundance. So if you've got any questions, why don't you just pop me an email? I'll just check the chat. Maybe I should stop the recording. So thank you for everybody who have been listening. I hope to connect with you. You can write me an email at contact@katrinahorn.com. And I always answer in person. It might not be straight away, but I will answer you. So please go ahead. I'll stop the recording now and I will take any questions in the chat. Thank you. Bye for now.